people of Israel were now living in the land of Canaan, which was the special land that God had given to them to live in. Now, they didn't have a church to go to when they wanted to worship God. They went to a special tent that had lots of interesting things in it. And I have a few things here that are from kind of what the inside of the tent would look like. Outside of the tent, there was an altar and a wash basin, and inside the tent, there was a special table with some bread on it. There was a candlestick with some fire on it, and there was a special altar where they would burn incense to God. On the other side of the curtain was a very special place, and in this place was the ark. And inside that ark were the 10 commandments that God had given to Moses on the mountain. So one day, while priest Eli was in the tent taking care of things, a lady came in. Her name was Hannah, and she was praying and crying and very, very sad. You see, she and her husband did not have any children, and she wanted to have a child very, very badly. And she prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and Eli saw her, and he told her that God was going to do for her what she asked. Well, sure enough, the next year, Hannah had a little baby. And Hannah had promised to give that little baby to God. So Hannah brought up that little baby to love Jesus, to know the scriptures, to love the law of God. And one day she brought him to the temple and gave him to priest Eli to be his helper. Then she went home and left Samuel with priest Eli to grow up in the tabernacle. Now Samuel could do lots of things even though he was little. He could help Eli do many things. He could keep the fire burning on the candlestick. Maybe he helped make the bread that went on the table. There were many things that he did to be helpful to priest Eli. Eli taught Samuel from the Word of God. Now, they didn't have a Bible like you and I have. They had a special roll of paper called a scroll, and on it were written the words of the Bible. Priest Eli and Samuel had beds to sleep in a special tent nearby. And as they would go to bed, Samuel would be nearby priest Eli in case he needed anything in the night. So they went to sleep one night, and Samuel heard somebody call, "Samuel!" And he got up very carefully and went over to priest Eli, and he said, "Here I am, you called me." And priest Eli sat up and he said, "No, I didn't call you. Go lie down again." So Samuel went back and lay down. He heard the voice again, "Samuel!" So he jumped up and he said, "Here I am. You called me." And priest Eli sat up and he said, "No, I didn't call you. Go lie down." So Samuel went back to his bed and he lay down. And he heard the voice again, "Samuel!" So he got up and he went to priest Eli and he said, "Here I am. I'm sure you called me." And priest Eli sat up and he knew then that it must be God who was calling Samuel. And he told Samuel, "If you hear the voice again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went back and he laid down on his bed. Pretty soon, Samuel heard the voice, "Samuel!" And he sat up and he said, "Speak, for your servant hears." And God talked to Samuel and told him lots of things. And Samuel went to priest Eli the next day and he told Eli all the things that God had told him, some very, very important things. Now Samuel was very small, but God still used him as his special helper. Do you think that God can use you as a special helper too? I'm sure he can. There are many ways that you can be a special helper for Jesus. Our memory verse is taken from 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 9, and these are the words that Samuel spoke when he heard God speaking to him. It says, "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." Can you take a minute now and say your memory verse to your mom or dad? 1 Samuel 3:9. "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears."